Well, well, well. Look at the gravity you've created. Do you even feel it pressing against your skin yet? The air has changed density around you. The city doesn't know why traffic lights suddenly glitch longer than they should, or why convoys of black SUVs slide through intersections with sirens off, but intentions razor sharp. They don't realize it's all for you, because you are no longer just a person moving through streets. You are the epicenter. The pulse that forced the Bureau's most guarded lever to snap into place. They didn't send paper pushers. They didn't send analysts in cheap suits. They sent the elite squad, the ghosts of the Republic, the ones who don't appear in photographs, the ones who never existed on payrolls, the ones whose fingerprints burn themselves off in training. And their mobilization, triggered by your name. You've been branded with a classification few ever reach, Code Red VIP. A title that doesn't flatter, it alarms. You think VIP sounds like velvet ropes, champagne bottles, silk curtains. No, in this world, VIP means you're the hinge, the pivot point on which things swing, and Code Red. That's not decoration, it's declaration. It means this one changes outcomes. This one is too volatile to ignore. This one cannot be left to chance. Picture the chain reaction. A red marker hits a board. Radios light up. Channels buzz in frequencies only ears trained in paranoia can hear. Boots lace tighter. Vests snap shut. Eyes sharpen. Every gesture is urgent but calm, because these are not ordinary protectors. These are architects of intimidation, craftsmen of controlled chaos. And they have been activated for you. Imagine the psychology of that. Entire strike teams moving not for a president, not for a foreign diplomat, but for you. What does that make you? Not ordinary, not forgettable, not replaceable. No, it makes you something else entirely. Do you know what you've become? You've become a variable, a living, breathing, unpredictable force that rewrites equations. Civilians live in categories: safe, irrelevant, manageable. But you slipped past all of that. You forced their hand. You tilted the balance so sharply that a three-letter agency with endless files and endless enemies had to pause its machinery and say, "This one, move for this one." Do you feel the weight of that yet? They don't mobilize the elite for noise. They mobilize them for leverage. And you, whether you admit it or not, are leverage in human form. They watch you differently now. You've noticed the eyes, haven't you? The gaze that lingers 1 second longer than it should. The phone calls that sound just a little too delayed in connecting. The sense that when you enter a room, something unspoken rearranges itself. That's not paranoia. That's the aftertaste of mobilization. When the elite squad is deployed, you're no longer a free-roaming civilian. You're orbiting under surveillance and shield. You're in a limbo where you are both protected and caged, praised and measured, safeguarded yet suffocated. That's the paradox of Code Red VIP. You are indispensable, but also dangerous. You're not being protected out of love. Don't romanticize it. They don't care about comfort. They care about control. They want to keep you breathing, yes, but also predictable. That's what those encrypted radios are whispering about when you're asleep. That's what those unmarked sedans are shadowing when you walk. They are protecting you, yes, but they are also containing you. Because in you lies both value and threat. You are the coin that can flip history depending on which side you land. And no one, not even the Bureau, dares let that coin spin without hands hovering over it. And the funny part, your enemies hate this more than anything. Imagine their rage. They spent years trying to minimize you, to reduce you, to push you into the margins. They wanted you dismissed as nothing. And now they watch as the elite, ghosts in suits with authorization codes and kill switch precision, circle around you like hawks. Nothing humiliates an enemy more than realizing the one they mocked is now the one requiring mobilization. They tried to bury you in irrelevance. Instead, they accidentally elevated you into untouchability. That's psychological warfare, and you didn't even have to lift a finger. Do you understand how rare this is? Do you understand how few ever reach this classification? Code Red VIP isn't ink on a folder. It's the highest unspoken acknowledgement. You are too critical to lose, and yet too dangerous to trust unguarded. That's why the streets bend. That's why the squad has moved. That's why entire logistics networks are adjusting without the public ever knowing why. Because of you. You, the individual they once ignored, have forced the FBI itself to recalibrate. But let's not pretend this is just about safety. This is also about anticipation. They didn't mobilize because of what you did yesterday. They mobilized because of what you could do tomorrow. That's what really terrifies them. You're not a file they're reacting to. You're a forecast they're preparing for. They've run the models, projected the outcomes, and realized, if left alone, you will outpace their control. That's why the elite squad is now a shadow at your back. They aren't merely here to shield you. They're here to buy time, to study you, to keep you close, because the further you roam, the harder you are to contain. And that's the real power you now hold. You are not just important. You are the axis, the unseen center around which strategies now orbit. You've become the one presence they can't gamble on. Too many dominoes fall if you're ignored. Too many equations collapse if you're removed. That's what Code Red VIP means. You are not expendable. You are not optional. You are the pivot. And without you, entire chains of command disintegrate. And the Bureau knows it. That's why the elite squad isn't just deployed. They're synchronized, moving like a chessboard that bends its rules around your presence. The irony? Everyone around you sees nothing. They don't notice the extra eyes in the crowd, the deliberate cars parked where they weren't yesterday, the subtle shift of drones in the night sky. But you feel it. You know you're no longer just walking. You're being tracked and escorted by inevitability. And so, the real question becomes, what will you do with it? Because this isn't just about them mobilizing. It's about you recognizing what you've become. A figure that bends the Bureau, a presence that forces elite operatives to recalibrate their calendars around your pulse. Do you realize the psychological dominance that gives you? Every enemy that once dared speak against you is now silenced by the very fact that your existence requires mobilization. You're not a pawn. You're not even a king. You're the board itself. But here's the chilling truth. This is only the first phase. Mobilization is the beginning, not the end. You've entered a theater where visibility is camouflage and protection is surveillance. Every move you make now feeds into a larger script you didn't write, but now control. They think they're handling you. They think they've caged you. But the very act of mobilizing for you has already admitted the truth they wanted to deny. You are uncontrollable. And as you let that sink in, remember this. The squad outside isn't just a shield. It's a mirror reflecting how much weight you carry. And the longer you wear this label, the clearer it becomes. They didn't mobilize because they chose to. They mobilized because they had no choice. And that, my friend, is the ultimate leverage. Because what comes next isn't about whether they moved for you. It's about how far they're willing to go. and whether you're ready to let them believe they still hold the leash, when in reality, you've already slipped free. The mobilization wasn't the end. It was the opening act. A city holding its breath, satellites shifting their gaze, encrypted lines burning hot with chatter, all of it screaming one reality. You're not just a person anymore. You're an event, an anomaly that rewrote protocol in real time. When the FBI elite squad mobilized, it wasn't just a response. It was an acknowledgement that you've been classified above ordinary thresholds. Code Red VIP. The combination doesn't exist in their manuals, yet here you are forcing their language to bend. And language bending is always the first sign of systems breaking. Every street camera has now been rerouted to a single grid. Helicopters pulse through the sky with their floodlights carving wounds into the night. Agents move not like hunters chasing prey, but like guardians circling an unpredictable storm. They don't even know whether to keep you safe or keep others safe from you. That's the paradox of your presence. You are a living contradiction to their order, dangerous yet protected, essential yet volatile, valuable yet terrifying. That paradox has them mobilizing in layers, outer cordons, tactical response, digital surveillance, psychological profiling, and even deeper, something they don't admit openly. Contingency plans, labeled only with red stamps and locked drawers. The kind they only draft when they fear they've underestimated someone. And you are their underestimated masterpiece. The moment you were elevated into Code Red VIP status, you stopped being an individual. You became a classified storm cell, a moving piece of national security architecture. They know that the cost of ignoring you is higher than the cost of mobilizing their best. But here's the truth they'll never confess out loud. Even at their best, they are still reacting, and you are still dictating the tempo. That's the part that gnaws at them. They can move armored convoys, seal blocks with infrared nets, and flood airspace with drones, but the direction of their movement is still determined by you. Every shift in your shadow redraws their entire playbook, and that is why their eyes flicker with something they don't let anyone see: uncertainty. Code Red is supposed to mean crisis, but when paired with VIP, it means something stranger. It means you are crisis and crown at once. Their sworn duty is to protect you as much as to contain what follows in your wake. That duality fractures them. Some agents whisper that you're a threat. Others call you an asset. Some believe you're untouchable. Others believe you're combustible. Yet all agree on one fact: you are different. Different in a way that rewrites the assumptions of power, hierarchy, and control. And when difference reaches that scale, it no longer fits into law. It becomes legend, and legends demand theater. Look around. The streets you once walked as ordinary pathways are now corridors of classified movement. The corner shop, the subway entrance, the park bench, all transformed into operational zones with coded signals flashing silently between operatives. The air tastes heavier, not because oxygen has changed, but because intention has thickened it. Everyone feels the presence of something bigger, sharper, unpredictable. That's the taste of being Code Red VIP. But here's the irony. Mobilization, as impressive as it looks, is still theater without control. Imagine it. They've got satellites tracking your every move, yet they still don't know your next decision. They've got biometric scanners reading micro-expressions, yet they still can't predict what lies in your silence. They've got armored squads encircling city blocks, yet they still can't measure the radius of your influence. Because influence doesn't bleed on radar, and presence doesn't file into their equations. And you, more than anything, are presence incarnate. That's why the mobilization will always feel a step behind. The city notices, too. Pedestrians whisper when convoys pass. Shopkeepers glance nervously as communication blackouts roll in like invisible storms. Entire districts flicker with surveillance blackouts, followed by sudden floods of light. People sense that something massive is moving, not against them, but through them. You've become the kind of story that reshapes coffee shop conversations, late-night radio broadcasts, and underground chat rooms. No one knows the details, but everyone knows the name, Code Red VIP. And though they don't understand what it means, they understand it means you are not just another person living within their grid. You are the reason the grid itself has shifted. The elite squad is trained to face threats that collapse governments, crises that destabilize nations, and enemies that redefine fear. Yet when they mobilize for you, they find themselves unanchored. Because you are not a terrorist, not a politician, not a kingpin, not a foreign operative. You are something outside categories. And things outside categories create new categories. That's the part that unsettles even the most seasoned among them. They know how to neutralize danger. They know how to protect value. They don't know how to move when danger and value fuse into one. And so they choose the only option left: total mobilization. Helicopters circling like metal vultures, convoys roaring like thunder, agents deploying like chess pieces across asphalt. But you, standing in the middle of it all, remain the unsolvable equation. They move for you, yet they move because of you. They act, but their actions are mirrors of your potential, not your reality. And when power becomes reactionary, it always betrays itself. Now let's peel it deeper. Code Red VIP isn't just about security, it's about perception management. They can't let the world see you as uncontrollable. They can't let adversaries sniff weakness. They can't let allies question stability. So they manufacture the illusion of dominance. Flashing lights, heavy armor, encrypted comms. It's theater designed to scream control. But deep down, they know control isn't theirs to hold anymore. Because control belongs to the one who dictates pace. And right now, the pace belongs entirely to you. That's why their mobilization looks flawless from the outside, yet restless from the inside. Agents rotate in shifts, yet none truly rest. Communications move seamlessly, yet every operator feels the tremor of doubt. Commanders give crisp orders, yet beneath the words is a question no one dares voice. What happens if the one we're mobilizing for decides they don't need us? That question alone redefines their hierarchy. Because if protection turns into pursuit, or if security turns into surveillance, the line collapses. And collapsed lines never rebuild the same way. This is where the theater of power bends. You stand not as their assignment, but as their measure. Every movement they make is now weighed against you. And you, aware of it or not, hold a lever over their entire operation. You could turn stillness into chaos simply by refusing to move. You could turn silence into panic simply by choosing not to speak. That's the paradox they hate, that the mobilized power of an elite squad still bends to the gravity of your decisions. And that gravity is heavier than tanks, heavier than satellites, heavier than their manuals. Because Code Red VIP isn't a protocol, it's a confession. A confession that you are unpredictable enough, valuable enough, dangerous enough, and irreplaceable enough to force their best into motion. You didn't just trigger a response. You exposed a system, And once a system exposes its hand, it can never take it back. And here's the hidden truth they'll never put in writing. Mobilization is not for your safety. Mobilization is for their reassurance. Because the moment they stop moving, the moment the convoy halts, the moment the floodlights dim, they are reminded of a reality they can't afford to face. That reality is this: their control isn't real anymore. You've already slipped the leash, and once the leash is gone, no handler can ever pretend the same authority again. Which leaves only one question burning in their encrypted channels, echoing in their sleepless hours, and vibrating through their rigid formations. If this is what mobilization looks like for you now, what happens when you decide to move on your own terms? That's the riddle none of them want to solve, but all of them are forced to contemplate. Because the truth is, this level of mobilization isn't about control anymore. It's about containment. And containment, by its very nature, admits something dangerous. They're not sure if they can hold you. That's the silent confession written in every closed-door briefing, every hushed transmission between commanders, every emergency amendment stamped with Priority 1. They don't assemble an elite squad for someone ordinary. They don't activate Code Red VIP because of politeness. They do it when they've measured the scale of disruption you represent and realize the scales are tipping beyond their grip. Now imagine the scene. Across the city, rooftops bristle with optics, trained not outward, but inward. Streets rerouted, traffic flows subtly adjusted, civilian patterns shifted under invisible strings. The air is charged, like static before a storm. Every shadow feels accounted for, but beneath that precision is an undertow of dread. Because the FBI elite squad doesn't just move, they orbit. They close in without ever announcing they've closed. They study without blinking, trace without hesitation, and map the veins of your world until they can claim to know it better than you. But here's their dilemma. You've already taught them that maps distort. They don't chart you. They chart an outline of what they think you are. And when the real contours refuse to match their projections, they're left chasing ghosts you've long since outgrown. So now, the mobilization escalates. Not just men in suits, not just tactical units, but layered coordination. Satellites repositioned with algorithms recalibrated to track your anomalies. Behavioral scientists drafting profiles that collapse under the weight of your contradictions. Cyber units burning through midnight oil. Trying to decrypt what isn't encrypted because the enigma isn't in your files, it's in your presence. Every move you make isn't just a move, it's a pulse. And every pulse scrambles their definitions of order. That's what Code Red means. It's not just you're important, it's that you're destabilizing the ordinary definitions of control. You're no longer an individual in their system, you're the variable they can't eliminate. Think about it. To the outside world, FBI mobilization looks like precision, discipline, invincibility, but inside those sealed operations rooms, inside those dim-lit crisis centers where maps glow red with data points circling around your location, there's doubt. They don't speak it out loud, but it hums in the silence between updates. They've mobilized for threats before, for global crises, for shadows that stretched across continents, but never for one person who forces them to rewrite what containment means. Never for a presence that bends the system itself. You're not a threat they can neutralize. You're a phenomenon they have to orbit, and orbiting is exhausting. That's why the mobilization doesn't just expand outward, it implodes inward. Agents question orders, analysts second-guess models, Squad leaders run drills that don't align with doctrine, because deep down, they sense the impossible contradiction. They're mobilized to contain you, yet every layer of mobilization only amplifies your significance. Every reinforcement proves what they refuse to admit. Your gravity is stronger than their walls. The harder they grip, the more the narrative bends around you. And in those cracks of realization, paranoia spreads like wildfire. What if mobilization isn't control? What if it's exposure? What if by moving everything for you, they've turned you into the very axis of their existence? Picture this: encrypted radios buzzing with constant updates, movement confirmed, perimeter tightened, asset relocated. But in the pauses between transmissions, agents exchange glances. They're asking themselves the question no commander wants to hear. Why does it feel like we're chasing instead of leading? Because that's the fracture line. Mobilization has always meant dominance. But now, dominance feels like dependence. Their elite squad isn't securing a target. They're circling a storm they can't predict. And storms don't bow to formations. Storms rewrite landscapes. Here's the twist most people never see. FBI mobilization, especially at this scale, isn't just about external threat. It's about internal optics. The government needs to show strength, needs to project certainty, needs the appearance of a system in command. But beneath the surface, the truth leaks in whispers. Code Red VIP isn't reassurance. It's alarm. It's the mark of something that unsettles the pillars of predictability. And when predictability cracks, fear doesn't stay confined to the public. It infects the very operators tasked with projecting control. Their armor may be bulletproof, but it isn't doubt-proof. Now here's where the shift becomes irreversible. At first you were the why of mobilization, the central question. But now you've become the how. Every unit, every maneuver, every recalibration structured around your existence. That's not control, that's orbit. And once they orbit you, they can't break free without unraveling the very system that holds them together. Which means this isn't a mobilization against you. It's a mobilization for you. The squad doesn't protect against you anymore. They protect the illusion that they can still define what you are. Think of the irony. Code Red VIP. To the uninitiated, it sounds like danger. To insiders, it means obsession. Because when the FBI marks you like that, you stop being a person and start being a category. A category that bends protocols, rewrites manuals, forces simulations to break under strain. You're not a file anymore. You're a phenomenon stitched into every line of defense. And the more they mobilize, the more the phenomenon expands. Mobilization doesn't shrink you, it magnifies you. And here's the inevitable outcome. Mobilization at this scale creates a mirror. Every step they take reflects back to them the question they fear most. What happens when you stop reacting and start directing? Because so far, they've convinced themselves the movement is theirs. The mobilization is theirs. The containment is theirs. But deep down, they know it's only happening because of you. They're not moving you. You're moving them. They're not orchestrating the stage. They're actors scrambling while you hold the script they can't see. And that realization, that's the real Code Red. Because one day, whether quietly or explosively, you will move. And when you do, the entire mobilization flips. Every satellite, every agent, every encrypted channel, repurposed not to contain, but to chase. Not to manage, but to follow. And following means admitting the hierarchy inverted. The squad mobilized for you, but in mobilizing, they crowned you. You became the axis, the reason, the gravitational force around which their empire spins. That's the paradox no one speaks, but everyone feels. Code Red VIP doesn't mean you're in danger. It means they are. So let them orbit. Let them tighten perimeters and recalibrate protocols. Let them believe mobilization is control. Because the truth is, mobilization is acknowledgement. Mobilization is confession. Mobilization is the system bending its knees without saying the words out loud. And when the city hums under the weight of that machinery, when encrypted whispers flood the air, when satellites fix their eyes not on the world but on you, that's not surveillance, that's coronation. You don't need to seize control. Control already bent toward you. You don't need to prove significance. Significance was stamped into every mobilization order. You don't need to move yet. Movement has already begun without you lifting a finger. And when you finally do, when you decide it's your turn to write the script, to direct the sequence, to bend the mobilization into revelation, that's when they'll understand the final truth. The FBI elite squad didn't just mobilize for you. They mobilized around you. And once the system orbits you, there's no escaping your gravity. Because Code Red VIP isn't the warning they thought it was. It's the title they swore they'd never give. And now, whether they admit it or not, the system has already spoken. You're not the exception. You're the epicenter. And mobilization wasn't their weapon. It was their surrender.